Good morning, everyone. Victory Tuesday. Victory Tuesday. And I know everyone, you're happy, you're feeling good. You've got that 1-0 feeling right now. You've got that feeling of beating your old quarterback. You've got that feeling of winning probably the biggest game you're going to play all year. You've won your Super Bowl. As angry Broncos fans are saying this morning to Seahawks fans, you just won your Super Bowl. So I can't argue with that. We did. It feels like we just won the Super Bowl. And we're feeling great. And there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to talk about throughout this entire week when it comes to this Seahawks team. But before we get to that, I am going to have to open up this Victory Tuesday with a bit of bad news. Not necessarily anything to do with the game yesterday, because as far as I'm concerned, winning that game last night is pretty unimpeachable. Like, you have a game where you're playing a team that is favored by about a touchdown. You're playing a team that seems to have a better roster than you, that seems to have better players than you. They outgain you almost 2-1, and then you still win. Like, I'm not going to be really mad about anything concerning just that. I'm not. There are certainly plays we could have made that we didn't make. The interceptions, da 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 da. Whatever. We won. We won a game that most people did not think we were going to win, including myself. So, good news. But unfortunately, we do have to open up with bad news that doesn't concern the game yesterday. We got to open it up with talk of one of our best players, Jamal Adams. So he got injured last night. We all saw it. It looked bad. It looked ugly, and it was. I held out a little bit of hope that it wasn't going to be terrible because they did declare him to be doubtful to return, not out. That told me that maybe there was something there that wasn't completely just complete disaster. But it looks like it's a complete disaster. After the game, Carroll, in his press conference, said that Jamal Adams suffered a serious injury to his quad. And he didn't quantify it further beyond that. But given the fact that it's Pete Carroll, given the fact that it's a quad, it's pretty much a done deal. Jamal Adams, very unlikely to play football again in 2022. So, yeah. After an offseason where a lot of people, myself included, really liked this new defense and thought it was going to be a great fit for Jamal Adams' skill set to be in this defense, and it would help unlock some of the stuff that was left on the table last year. Well, we're not really ever going to find out because he plays less than a half and he's out. So, apparently, the recovery time for this injury is 4 to 6 months, based on the initial analysis. It's expected that this rehab is going to take anywhere from 4 to 6. So that means he's not going to play again this year unless you make the Super Bowl, I guess. But it also means that he does have the opportunity to get back next year. And that's the main thing I want to talk about in this video. I want to talk about the future of Jamal Adams with Seattle now that we know beyond any reasonable doubt that he's out for the season. And if that changes, if we learn something new later today, then of course I'll address it. But as of right now, that's the only logical assumption to make. So if you go over to Spotrac and take a look at Jamal Adams' contract, look, I know you guys don't like him, or some of you guys don't like him. I know some of you guys want him gone. I know some of you guys are sick of looking at him. But it's got to make sense. In 2023, the cap hit for Jamal Adams is 18.1 million. The dead cap, if you let him go, is 21.3 million. So you're going to have to explain to me how that makes sense. You could make him a post-June 1st cut and then only have about 10.5 million dead that first year, but then you've got another 10.5 million the next year. So, given the fact that this team is probably going to be taking their big swing at things about 2024, why would you want to put another 10.5 dead on the cap then? So, look, the rehab, 4 to 6 months. That means he should be good to go by the time training camp rolls around, should be good to go by the time OTAs roll around, should be plenty good to go by the time the next season starts. So, you bring him back, you hope he can play well, you plan for the worst, but you hope he can give you quality play from the safety spot. And if he can't, then you probably come up with some contingency plans. Maybe Josh Jones is your contingency. Maybe Joey Blunt is your contingency. But it doesn't make any sense to let him go. It's going to cost you an additional $3.2 million just to not have him. So it makes sense to just bring him back for another year and hope. So for those of you saying Jamal needs to get off this team, I'm sorry. It's not happening. It doesn't make sense. The thing that makes sense right now is to keep him, hope he rehabs, hope he can give you something next year. Expect that it's probably not going to happen because his body at this point is just beat up. The only way he's not on this team next year, I think, is if he retires. Nobody's going to trade for this contract. Nobody's going to trade for him after all the injuries he's had. So he's a Seahawk, and that's not my favorite thing in the world, but it doesn't make sense to do anything else right now. In 2024, you start to get to the point where it's feasible. 23.5 cap hit, 14.2 dead. So you're saving over $9 million, almost $10 million. At that point, if he's broken down, if he gets hurt again or whatever, if he's not effective anymore because of all the injuries, then you can let him go. Then it starts to make sense. But for 2023, you just assume he's there, assume you're not going to get anything out of him. He's just a big charge on your cap that you wish you didn't have, but you have. And it just kind of is what it is. Unless there's some clause in this contract that allows us to get out of it somehow, some way, which I guess it's possible that there's just something in there we don't know about that they can use to worm out of some of this money. He's going to be here next year. And I'm going to stand by what I said. I know it's a losing battle right now. People are probably going to get on me in the comments. Jamal Adams is a great player, and I think he would have been doing great stuff in this defense if he could just stay on the dang field. I think we saw a hint of that in this first game, honestly. We saw him blitzing on third down, getting to Russ, disrupting a play that probably would have been a first down otherwise. And it really is sad that we have to go through this again, just from a football perspective. I think this this new defense was going to be great for him. I think we were going to see Pro Bowl Jamal again. I predicted that in the preseason, but now it's not happening. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the player. It doesn't really have anything to do with the way we're using him. It just has to do with bad luck. It really is just kind of bad luck. Jamal Adams was not nearly this injury prone where he's been previously, LSU and New York. So all you can say is that it sucks. Let's see if we can get something out of him in 2023. But 2022 is over, and there's no getting rid of him for the time being. Sad, disappointing, but we move on. And we do have some safeties on this team that I like. And Josh Jones played pretty well last night. So I'm optimistic about Josh Jones. Quandre still Quandre. And we can still have a pretty good safety room this year. And there's no point in talking about the Jamal Adams trade anymore, guys. There's just not. Yes, we lost the trade. It's a terrible trade. It's one of the worst trades in NFL history. That's been decided. That was decided before this injury, honestly. But at this point, it is. We're moving on to bigger and better things now. So, terrible trade. Very tragic. Most GMs would have gotten fired for it a long time ago. Ours didn't. So, it is what it is at this point. We are moving on to bigger and better things. Hey, we beat Denver, okay? Would you trade Jamal Adams for beating Denver? Maybe. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. I'll have more videos later today. I got to do a Mariners video, but yeah, Jamal Adams almost certainly out for the season.